So, this week we are starting our summer series on theater and theology, where we look at some movies, and in this case, one TV series as well, to look at modern interpretations of biblical themes. So you could almost think of these as kind of exploration of modern-day parables. Now, I do want to say up front, full spoilers. Every movie we talk about, every TV series we talk about, I'm going to do spoilers in it. Now, intentionally, for this first one, I chose older movies and older things. So, like, if I spoil a 12-year-old movie, I'm not going to feel bad about that, because if you were going to see it, you would have seen it by now. But next year, I might do newer ones, but I wanted to give you a little reprieve this year for that. Now, I did it right, okay. Our first movie is going to be X-Men movies. That's fine. Honestly, I'm not sure if the people that made them even have seen or understand a lot of the X-Men stuff, but I'm not going to go down that road today. But the world of X-Men, there is a subset of people who have an extra gene. They have a mutation, hence their name, mutants. Now, these mutations allow them to do something different. They give them a cool superpower. So some of the ones important for our story today is Patrick Stewart here, Professor X. He can read and control minds. Magneto can control magnetic fields, which basically means he can control metal. Storm can control wind and water particles. She can conjure storms up. Wolverine has cool claws, but for him, the most important thing is he self-heals really fast. So he heals himself. And there's a whole bunch more, but it's just kind of an example. You kind of see the world we're in. Now, this particular movie opens in a dystopian future where machines called Sentinels are killing all of the mutants. They have all but killed all of them. There's just a few left around surviving. Now, these few bands, two of them find each other. They come together, and they come up with an interesting plan to survive. The plan hinges on this mutant right here, who's named Kitty Pryde. She has a power that she can send someone's consciousness, someone's mind, back in time into their body. So it would be like, send my mind right now back into my body a year ago with all the knowledge from the previous year. So kind of time travel. If that happened, I'm placing some good sports bets. You know I am putting so much money on Cape Verde, and I am going to be rich, and yeah, you would never see me again. I would buy the island of Cape Verde. But so they find this out, and that becomes the very important part of their plan. So rather than me explain it, I will let Patrick Stewart explain it. Okay, so the plan is to send Wolverine, to send Hugh Jackman back in time to try to stop the assassination. Because if the assassination doesn't happen, then the Sentinel program never happened, then this war never happens. Aren't time travel movies the best? So if they can go back and stop it, stop the domino that starts everything falling, things should be okay. Okay? That kind of makes sense what the plan is? All right. Now, there are a lot of themes you could pull from the X-Men comics, TV shows, movies. They are literally a treasure trove of deep themes and theological elements. Their initial creation comes out of American racism in the 50s and 60s. The idea that you hate the mutants just because they're different. The big bad guy of them, Magneto up here, his whole backstory is he was a child during the Holocaust. So he's now fast-forwarding, seeing the same things happening that he saw as a child, which makes him such a good bad guy because he explains this and you're like, he's not wrong about his thought process. So the notion of hating the other simply out of fear, simply because they are different, is something we could spend weeks and weeks and weeks talking about. Because honestly, as sad as it is, really nothing has changed since these comic books were first made. We still hate other people simply because they are different. But that's not what we're going to talk about today. This specific movie, I think, has a different theme in it. Something else jumped out to me. So let's jump back into the story itself. So the plan does work. Send Wolverine back in time. You can tell it's back in the 70s based off that sweet shirt he's wearing there. He assembles a team of mostly the younger versions of the old people from the first clip. So, pointer here, this is young Magneto, young Professor X. He has hair, can walk, all that fun stuff. And they go about their plan. They try to get to Mystique to stop her from killing Oliver Trask. They get down to the day when she's supposed to kill him, and she's outsmarted them. She gets her wish. She gets to where she is standing in front of him, gun pointed at him. She is about to set into motion all of the events that set off this dystopian future that kill everyone. Our heroes are unable to get to her. Wolverine is trapped in a river under the bottom of a river miles away. Professor X has had a whole scaffolding fall on him, so he can't move. Magneto has betrayed everyone because that's what he does. He always does that. I don't know why they ever trusted him in the first place. So they can do nothing. All they can do is plead with her. Plead to show mercy. Do I have another look? There she is. Plead with her to show mercy. Yes, Trask is a deplorable human being who has done awful, awful things. But is it her place to decide his fate? They have to try to convince her that mercy is the road to victory. She's at a crossroads. She has a choice laid before her. On the one hand is anger, is vengeance, but honestly, is justice. On the other hand is forgiveness, is mercy, is undeserved grace. One choice kills everyone, one choice saves everyone. Flip that around, I was pointing the wrong way. Now this reminds me of a story. A story from the Bible, one in Genesis. If we start reading in Genesis 37, we will encounter the story of Joseph. Joseph was one of the youngest siblings in his family. He has a lot of brothers and sisters. And it quickly becomes evident that Joseph is his father's absolute favorite child. Dad does an awful job at even remotely trying to hide this. Joseph gets every preferential treatment possible. It's not even funny how much he is favored. So as you can imagine, Joseph's brothers very much start to resent him. That resentment grows to hatred. Hatred to the point of, we're going to kill this guy. They enact a plan to do that. They start the process. They are going to kill him, but then they see a caravan coming by. A caravan of slave traders that buy humans and sell them to other people. So in their weird, warped consciousness, they somehow think, you know what? It'll make us feel better if we don't kill him. Let's just sell him into slavery. Let's just give him a lifetime sentence as a slave, as the worst kind, the lowest person in this field, in this world. Somehow that'll make us feel better. So they do. They sell Joseph. The caravan takes him down to Egypt. He gets sold to a wealthy house. He doesn't work in this house all that long because pretty quickly he's falsely accused of rape, which lands him in prison, where he sits and rots alone for years and years and years. People come through, leave, be released, and yet he remains. It's him, there by himself. As time goes by, eventually, the king of the land, Pharaoh, has a dream, and it really, really confuses him. So, Joseph, who's still in prison for a crime he didn't commit in a country far, far away from his home, gets a call. With the help of God, Joseph is able to not only tell Pharaoh what the dream was, but also tell him what it meant. Is able to tell Pharaoh, this is a warning from God about a coming famine. We need to act now to make sure the people survive. Because if we don't, they will not last. The food will not last, we will die. So that's what Pharaoh does. And Pharaoh was so impressed by Joseph that Pharaoh put in charge of this program. And slowly Joseph rises in the ranks of the government until he is one of the most powerful people in Egypt. The only person he has to answer to is Pharaoh himself. Now, Joseph does a very, very good job in his role. He prepares for this coming famine very effectively. So effectively that when it hits, Egypt has more than enough food. They have food for themselves, plenty. But other people group, or countries, they have food, and we don't. So people groups, countries, dignitaries, lots of people flood into Egypt asking for help, asking for food. Which brings us to the awesomely awkward moment where who comes walking through the front doors of Joseph's palace but his brothers. Now, Joseph recognizes them immediately, but they don't recognize him. Now, we don't get any indication of what's going on in Joseph's head, but I think we can guess a little bit. He sees the men who were the very reason he sat in prison for years. The very reason he was isolated, alone, rotting in a cell, walking through his front door, seeking help. Now, there's some back and forth, but eventually, Joseph is faced with a choice. On the one hand, he could deny his brothers food. Now, this would be a choice of revenge, of anger, but again, arguably justice. That would be the just choice. On the other hand, he could embrace his brothers. He could provide for them. This would be the choice of mercy, of forgiveness, of grace. Now, if Joseph chooses the just choice, a lot of things are going to happen. Probably, his family dies. They starve. Meaning, those brothers do not go on to have kids, those kids don't go on to have kids, and we don't get the 12 tribes of Israel. Meaning, we don't get the nation of Israel. Meaning, no King David. There's no house of David. Meaning, there's no lineage for Jesus to be born into. That's a lot riding on one choice. And Joseph doesn't even realize this. Now, does this sound familiar? Both Joseph and Mystique are faced with a choice. Very different circumstances, but identical in nature. Vengeance or forgiveness. Hatred or grace. Justice or mercy. The consequences of their choice will spiral beyond anything they could ever know. The right choice leads to life, leads to abundance, leads to thriving. The wrong choice kills everyone. Now, if only there was someone we could consult with a question like this of what we should do. Oh, wait, look, I'm sure Jesus has something to say about it. Why don't we look? Let's look at Luke 6, where we read this. Treat people the same way you want them to treat you. If you love someone who loves you, why should you be commended? Even sinners love those who love them. If you do good for those who do good to you, why should you be commended? Even sinners do that. If you lend to those whom you expect repayment, why should you be commended? Even sinners lend, expecting to be paid in full. Instead, love your enemies. Do good. Lend, expecting nothing in return. If you do, you will have great reward. You will be acting the way the children of the Most High act. For our God, for God is kind to the ungrateful and wicked people. Be compassionate, just as your Father is compassionate. Don't judge, and you won't be judged. Don't condemn, and you won't be condemned. Don't condemn, and you won't be condemned. Forgive, and you will be forgiven. Yeah, but I don't want to do that, Jesus. That's not fun. That's not what I want to do. That's really difficult. Be compassionate, as your Father is compassionate. We have been shown an incredible amount of mercy and compassion. We have been shown so much mercy and compassion, we don't even realize it. God forgives us daily, over and over and over again. Mercy is poured out. So, if we are to be like Christ, which, by the way, the word Christian, in its most wooden translation, literally means little Christ. So if we want to be a little Christ, we have to act like Jesus. We have to show mercy and grace and compassion. That's difficult. But okay, how do these stories play out? Let's start with Joseph. If we jump in the story, we'll get to Genesis 45, where we read that Joseph does in fact choose the path of mercy. He forgives his brothers. Not only forgives them, gives them food, but invites the entire family to come to Egypt, to live with him in his house, under his protection, so he can care for them for the rest of their lives. Now, this is an act that leads to the people eventually becoming the nation of Israel. All of that started with a single act of mercy, a single moment of forgiveness. That's huge. That's big. What about our movie? What about Mystique? Well, she is standing in front of the person she hates the most in the world. She has the ability to end him. No one can get to her. The only thing they can do is Professor X can talk to her, because he can talk to people in their heads. That's all we got. All we can do is appeal to her mercy. In the future part, where all the old people are, the bad guys, the Sentinels, are barging in. They are seconds away from killing everyone, from ending everything forever. It all comes down to her choice. So let's see what Mystique does. Her single moment of grace ends up saving everyone. So our question becomes, how are we at forgiving? How are we at showing mercy? There's a quote that I really love, and it is attributed to just about everyone. I saw where it was attributed to Nelson Mandela, the Dalai Lama, Thomas Aquinas, so I don't know who originally said it. But this is the quote. Resentment is like drinking poison and then hoping it kills your enemies. It's not an easy thing to forgive. It's not an easy thing to show mercy. If it was, that wouldn't be the defining characteristic that Jesus says defines us, defines people who follow Jesus: love and mercy. Choosing love is difficult. Showing grace is hard. But we've been called to do that. So the question becomes, how can we show grace and mercy this week? What would that even begin to look like? Now, you're not going to forgive everything this week. But what is something you could do to start? Start that process. Start that path. This is what Jesus modeled for us. This is what we're called to do. And Jesus modeled this for us in the most powerful way. So as we prepare for communion,